Next, let's talk about the spectrum of mushroom products you can find on the market today. For the sake of simplicity, I've listed them from bad to the best. But before we start, I want to make one big disclaimer. I want to call it the ultimate supplement transparency disclaimer. I want to be completely honest with you guys. We've started this company initially to just try solve the problem of finding a product that's been lab tested and mainly some transparency behind how it's been developed. But then we create our own product. And then from doing this for years, you realize just how much dishonesty and cheating goes on behind the scenes because it's so easy. People don't check the labels. There's no governing body that checks things. Like, you can get away with so much, and it's awful. And honestly, it all really just comes down to this one question. Do you trust the group of people that you're buying this product from? Because that's it. There's not much more to it. Right. This is the test. So before we get into some of the more mushroom product focused variations you can find on the market, I just want to give you a quick 3 tests you can try at home with any of your mushroom supplements that might help you determine what kind of supplement it is. And then we'll bring that in again when we speak about the different types of products. So let's talk about the first test, the capsule pull test. It sounds fancy, but really all we're doing is pulling the capsule apart and exposing the powder. For some reason, we have this idea that because it has been put into a capsule, it must be really good. Not the case. So you pull the capsule apart, you look at the powder. Does the powder look coarse? Is it like sandy? That's indicative that it's a really bad quality product because it's probably just raw powder. It's not an extract. Is it extra fine, very smooth? Maybe even if you put it on your finger and start pressing against it, is it a little sticky? That's indicative of a good quality extract. Now, it doesn't mean we know what the benchmarks are, but at least gives you a very rough estimate as to what you're working with. Next, do the water test. Test number 2. Just take a teaspoon of this extract or powder, whatever you think it is, and drop it into some water. Give it a little bit of a stir and let's see what happens. Raw powder means unextracted, and we'll talk about that in a second, will just clump up and basically look like a little bit of mud or sludge at the top of the powder. That means it's not an extract. Next, if it is a good extract, or if it is at least a extract, you'll quickly see most of it starts to dissolve and change the color of the entire water. That's a good sign. I mean, in some parts like reishi or chaga will make it quite dark quite quickly. But doesn't mean that all of it will dissolve. It just means that it does dissolve, which is really good. Next thing is, if it dissolves like a dream right off the bat without much effort, well, you're highly likely sitting with a very filler-filled mushroom extract. Meaning most of it is just fillers, maltodextrin, dextrin, whatever it could possibly be that they use to cheapen the product. Lastly, you can do an iodine test. Now, after you have checked, does it dissolve beautifully? You might think, wow, this dissolved a little bit quickly. How can I verify that it is maltodextrin? Well, buy some iodine, very cheap. And you take the mushroom extract, put it on a plate, and you dip some iodine solution, which you can buy at any place, online at a pharmacy or Amazon. You dip it on the powder. If it turns blue, black, purple, that kind of color, that's indicative that this is most likely filled with fillers or maltodextrins, because only the starches reacts to the iodine solution. Pure mushroom extracts contain almost no starch, so they should not change color when iodine is added. Let's now talk about the specific different product types. Number 1, raw powder. This is just cheap, ground up, and undigestible. This is simply just dried mushrooms crushed into a powder. No extraction, no concentration, and almost no absorption, because your body can't break down the top chitin, which is the cell wall that surrounds the mushroom. So any beneficial compounds just stay locked inside, and you get more benefit chewing on cardboard if you really try. And this is the product you will find often sold by large retailers and companies because it costs almost nothing to produce. Now, if I mean nothing, I mean nothing. If you think about it, an extract might be 10 to 20 times more expensive, and they'll sell you that powder for close to, if not the same price as an extract. So how do you know? Well, like I said, you pull that capsule apart, you look at the powder. How does it look? One thing I also want to be transparent with you here is that I mentioned in the disclaimer that people can be dishonest, and there are many companies selling you powders telling you it's extract. It is not that easy to differentiate between the two, and that's why they do it. So that's why you need to really think twice when you choose where you buy your products from. And look, I need to be transparent here because you have 2 types of companies. Some of these companies will tell you the truth. This is just a mushroom powder. They won't specify it's an extract on the label or on the pouch. That's great, at least you know, stay away. But some, and probably more than most, they won't tell you. So they'll tell you it's an extract and still sell it to you because they know how would you know the difference. This we've seen a lot, even from companies you wouldn't expect. That's where I just want to make it clear. You got to be honest with yourself. Like, do you trust these people that you're buying these products from? Mushroom powders, and that's why I say here a bit longer, are the most sold lie in our field at the moment. Product number 2, the shell broken powder. Similar to the previous raw powder we spoke about, this goes to an extra manufacturing step, the mechanical cracking process. It's not a chemical extraction per se, but the dried mushrooms are placed in a chamber where iron rods spin at an extremely high speed, generating enough friction to impact and break the outer chitin walls. Now, by breaking it open, you do increase the surface area and make a small portion of nutrients more accessible, probably about 20% more accessible, meaning your stomach acid and enzymes can reach some of the more in the material, which is great, meaning it is a better version of the product, but slightly. Now, the reason I bring this up is because now that we've mentioned it, you're probably going to see companies over the next few months start talking about how their products are all shell broken. But to be completely honest, I wouldn't know how to distinguish between a product that's shell broken, not shell broken. Those two powders look very similar, and there's no test that currently tells you the difference. So yes, that's something to note. Now, why do I tell you this? Because the shell broken powder is actually a very important step in creating an extract. Really high quality extracts will undergo this shell breaking, because by doing that before going for extraction, you're going to get so much more juice when you squeeze that lemon. Next, product number 3. The impure extracts with maltodextrin. This is the industry sugar-coated secret, because a lot of companies don't even tell you there's maltodextrin in their product. They know you don't like it, so they're not going to tell you. And this is where things start looking scientific. They start saying things like it's a 10-to-1 extract, it's a high yield standardized for beta-glucans, but for most part, it falls apart under the microscope. Because many companies take real mushroom extracts and just dilute them with cheap bulking agents to increase the volume and improve the flow during packaging. And the end product looks like a nice fine powder, but much of what it is it isn't mushroom at all. The most common filler is maltodextrin, as you may have heard, but there are others as well. This is a starchy powder made from corn or rice. It's cheap, flavorless, and it dissolves like a dream. It's perfect for hiding poor extraction yields or masking clumping, but it comes at a cost because it drastically reduces the concentration of any real active compounds such as beta-glucans, triterpenes, etc., etc., etc. There are other bulking agents, and for the sake of completeness, let's talk about some of them. There's one's called dextrin, similar to maltodextrin, but it's even cheaper and just used purely to bulk weight. Next, things like rice or cornstarch, often labeled as natural carrier, but it still dilutes potency, so I wouldn't recommend it. Next, something called silica or magnesium stearate. It's used as a flow agent to prevent clumping, but it adds absolutely no nutritional value. Clumping is unfortunately something that happens with pure extracts because they're hygroscopic. Next are things like flavorings or coloring agents. It's used in some blends to make them look more tasty, maybe earthy, while hiding inconsistency in, well, a real extract color. So when you see a product labeled as mushroom extract, but what you might actually be buying is 20-30% real extract blended with 70 to 80% filler. And that's why the two powders can look identical, but one delivers real results and the other delivers a sugar rush. But I have told you guys how to check that out. Buy an iodine solution if there is no lab test to do it, because lab tests can be expensive. Product number 4. We've now moved on to tinctures. That is a bad tincture, and I would say a good tincture. Now, bad tinctures is basically a 1% mushroom and 99% disappointing, because this is where marketing and craftsmanship part ways. Most tinctures you'll find in the West or sold online are made this way. They soak a tiny amount of mushroom powder or pre-bought extract in a water or alcohol or a mix of both, and then they strain it and bottle the liquid. And the result is a weak, murky solution that may look artisanal, but contains barely any active compounds. And the problem is that the mushroom's beneficial molecules, like beta-glucans or triterpenes or polysaccharides, they need heat and time to be released from the cell walls. Simply soaking the powder in alcohol doesn't extract them, it just creates a flavored liquid. Yet, they're sold at the same premium prices because they look medicinal. Finally, we get to the good tinctures. Now, these are crafted. They're not copied. These are true tinctures and they're a world apart. Because instead of buying a pre-made mushroom extract powder and simply dissolving it in alcohol or water, which is what most brands do, a true tincture is made from the actual extraction liquid itself. It's the concentrated broth produced during a water or dual extraction. Here's how it works in layman's terms. Basically, you have the raw material. We spoke about the shell broken raw material that goes into a chamber. They add the liquid, hot water, alcohol, whatever it may be. They extract it. It becomes a liquid. That liquid goes into another chamber where it gets concentrated. And that concentrated liquid can do two things. One, you can go to another area of the facility where it gets dried and powderized, which is what then get used to make capsules or powders, or they take that liquid and turn that into a tincture. And that's the difference. Another company, if you think about on the West, they wouldn't use that liquid. They'd either buy the extract and just dilute it in water, pop it in the tincture in salads, or they would soak it and put that soaked liquid into a tincture and sell that. So you can see these two are worlds apart. You're either buying the actual concentrated liquid that becomes the extract powder that you know, or the way most companies do it because, well, you require quite a big facility to do that. Now, this process keeps the molecular structure and synergy of the extract intact. Unlike redissolving dry powders, which can cause separation and sediment and loss of actives. So, while cheap tinctures are just powders mixed into liquid, a true tincture is the liquid extract itself because it's stable, it's potent, and it's fully bioavailable. Big difference. Now, product number 6, the pure extract powder. This is what everyone claims that they're selling. It's the gold standard. And a pure extract powder is produced through a controlled extraction of hot water, alcohol, or both. And this is something I'm not going to stick with because everyone kind of has a good idea as to what this is. All we're doing is concentrating the bioactive compounds using various methods. The last part on the list, gummies. And I guess if you're here for gummies, you're not really off supplements to begin with. You're just off the sweets. So there's nothing else to really be said about that product. And even if a company sells them, if the supplement company sells you gummies, then is it really a supplement company to begin with? Now, let's talk about lab testing. This is where most supplement brands wave their hand and change the subject. So, before we dive in, 2 quick disclaimers. 92% of the companies we reviewed don't display any lab results at all. And even when they do, it's usually just a COA, a certificate of analysis. That's not a full lab report, it's just a summary of what they have done potentially. Personally, I don't trust summaries. I want to see the raw data. Especially having been in the industry, I mean, the summary is only just a piece of paper. Now, let's start with the first metric, quality. The beta-glucans, the global benchmark. When it comes to measuring mushroom extract quality, the beta-glucan content is the single most meaningful number you can look for. We test ours using the Megazyme beta-glucan assay kits, the reference being KY-GVL. It's the same method used by research institutions and pharmaceutical labs. Why beta-glucans? Well, because they're the active polysaccharide that defines a mushroom's functional power. They're also the only compound class with a globally standardized peer-reviewed testing method. Now, you might wonder, why not just test for all the other things as well? I'm going to be honest with you, and here's the truth. When you speciate a mushroom, you can identify hundreds of bioactive compounds, triterpenes, phenolics, peptides, flavonoids. Each one's unique, but each of those requires a reference sample and a globally agreed testing method. Is it going to be UV spectrometry? Is it HPLC? Is it LCMS? You name it, there's a method. The problem is that there isn't a universal standard, because one lab might report the UV result of 8% for triterpenes, and another uses HPLC and reports 1%. Now, does the customer know what's better or worse? No, because it's the same sample but a different story. We're not here to play that look how many ribbons we have game. Until there's a level playing field, we stick to the method that's globally accepted and scientifically sound. And that's beta-glucans, because that is the universal proxy for potency and concentration. Metric 2, purity, which is alpha-glucans. It just happens to come with the same KY-BGL test that we do with Megazyme, but it tells you a different story. Now, beta-glucans tells us about the quality, but the alpha-glucans tells us about the purity. Why? Because alpha-glucans are a starch-type compound found in fillers like grain or mycelium substrate, and also in some mushrooms. A high alpha-glucan percentage usually just means you're paying for some rice and not mushrooms. So this is a really good indicator if a company is showing you their alpha-glucan results, what's actually in their product. A good product will have a high beta-glucan result and a quite low alpha-glucan result. That's what you're looking for. Next, probably the most overlooked part of any sort of supplement testing is safety. This is what companies avoid as much as they can because it's expensive and not sexy. Mushrooms are bioaccumulators. They're like living sponges that absorb everything around them. The same ability that lets them pull trace minerals from soil also means they can pull the bad stuff. Heavy metals, pesticides, industrial residues. And that's why safety testing isn't optional. It's survivable. The first test on our list here is heavy metals, because mushrooms can draw on elements like lead, mercury, or arsenic from soil and water, and even small traces can build up over time. So every batch needs to be screened to ensure zero bioaccumulation risk. Next, pesticides, because even organic farms aren't immune to wind drift or cross-contamination. So you need to test to ensure what's pure at the root stays pure in the product. Next, and this is a bit of a mouthful, is ethylene oxide, or ETO. This is a sterilizing gas banned in the EU but still used elsewhere to clean herbs and powders. It kills off microbes, and if left unchecked, can also do that to people. So we make sure it never touches your extract. Moving over to PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, even bigger. These form when dry or extraction temperatures are too hot. They're the same compounds found in cigarette smoke and burnt food, so precision processing keeps them out, but the testing confirms it. And I guess the last, which goes without saying, is the microbial load. Every batch is checked for bacteria, yeast, and mold to the pharmacopoeia standards, not food-grade shortcuts, because supplements belong closer to medicine than to muesli. So when we tell you it's clean, we don't want you to take our word for it. We want you to see the proof. So these are the tests that I would say are non-negotiable for mushroom extract specifically. Now, the red flags checklist. Do you want to know when to run? Well, here's a short list. Number 1, no lab reports. If you can't see any tests, assume they don't exist. Number 2, do they brag about polysaccharides instead of beta-glucans? Because that usually means they're counting starches and not actives. Number 3, they can't tell you where their farms are or who runs them. Because if a company can't tell you where the mushrooms are growing, it's because they don't know. Number 4, my personal favorite. If the company sells you gummies, it's not a supplement company. Just keep moving and don't trust what they say. Number 5, they claim to grow and extract everything in the UK or Europe. This is nearly impossible for full spectrum mushrooms, because there's no industrial extraction infrastructure that exists here at scale. And number 6, every mushroom comes from one place. That can't be true, because each species has its own climate, its own substrate, and its own growth cycle. So one farm fits all is just a fairy tale. And last but not least, you can't name the founders. This one seems obvious to me, but guys, if you can't speak to real people, then why are you buying from this company? Do you know who they are? Do you know the people that are running the company? Do you see their face? Because only people that are proud of what they built would put their face on this. It's crazy to me that some people are still buying products from other companies that are hiding in shadows, and you never speak to founders and you don't know anything about them. Why are you buying from them? So companies are sitting in weird places around the world. Don't buy from companies like that, because they exist purely to exploit you, and if something were to go wrong, you cannot trace it back to them and move on. So if there's one thing that I can leave behind with these 7 checklists, that all comes back to that same disclaimer I had in the beginning of the video. Do you trust the people that you're buying from?